Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again for another round of the Wheel-to-Wheel Tier 1 F1 2019 Championship. As today, the championship takes us to the Ardennes, to the outskirts of the city of Liège, to the mythical circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. 20 corners in a lap distance of just over 7 kilometers, full of history. It is the most famous corners in the calendar. Quite a few amount of them are in this circuit. So of course, not only lots of history, lots of action to witness today, lots of high speed and lots of excitement from the fans. No doubt, of course, the weather can always play spoilers, so let's see if it's going to spice up the race this afternoon. Taking a look at the standings, we have Nick Hagler in the championship lead, followed by Shadi with Real in P3. Then we have Schwalbe in 4th place with 103 points, 5 ahead of Silver's Relay, who closes the top 5. After that, we have Ixter, followed by Ken Worthington, as Luck Taps follows in 8th with 58 points, only 3 ahead of JG, with Jaime closing the top 10 with 40 points. Then we have Bojnovic, the Spaniard, with 38 points, 6 ahead of Mandrop, with Archer in 13th, Lira in 14th place so far, 2 steps in 15th with 17, 2 points ahead of Madzi Throne, with Eme in 17th, followed by Booty, Tib Schmid and Bieliluk complete the top 20. Moving to the Constructors' Championship, we have Mercedes leading the way with 255 points, 25 points ahead of McLaren, as Red Bull follows in P3 with 206. Then a big gap, 87 points to Toro Rosso in 4th, Williams as the Groove team follows in 5th. Then we have the American-based Haas with 75 points, about 17 points ahead of Ferrari. Then we have the Silverstone-based Racing Point in 8th, Alfa Romeo follows in 9th, and the Renault team in P10 with 35 points so far this season. So with that, we can get ourselves started. So hopefully I won't get trolled by OBS. Start capturing the game, please. Thank you very much. I'm going to just sort everything out on my other monitor, and yeah, we get ourselves started with our qualifying session for our Belgium Grand Prix. So at least for the moment, the skies are clear, the sun is shining bright upon the 7-kilometer layout here at the Ardennes region. And oh, we already have someone out. I don't know if Bojnovic had a qualifying ban, but he is already out of the session. 2 steps has left the session, so I'm not sure if there was any issue with his connection. And we also do not have sound. Okay, sound is back. Sometimes pausing and coming out of pause mode fix it, sometimes it doesn't, as we are having some of our drivers already started with their laps. We are actually going to go on board with Nick, as the Red Bull driver is getting himself now through the uphill of Eau Rouge. 2 step as disconnected from the session, and Bojnovic looks like has done the same. 2 step is actually disqualified from the session, which is rather unfortunate. But Nick, trying to find him in the standings. I actually can't find him. Oh yeah, it's Nick Nagler. He's our championship leader, 191 points to his name, and he is not coming from the best of string of results, as he got his lowest finish of the season with that 5th place at Silverstone, followed by another race outside the podium at Germany, finished 4th. It's the first time that the Red Bull driver didn't finish in the podium for 2 races in a row, or the first time he didn't finish in the podium for more than 1 race in sequence. And fortunately for him, he came back to the podium at Hungary with a 2nd place finish at the Hungaroring. So at least maybe he can start getting himself back to a string of good results, as we have Mandrop also out of the session. The Racing Point, he was parked to the side in the sector number 2 at about Campus or Stavolo, about that area. But yeah, he was parked to the side, so he's out. Not a great qualifying session for the racing points, that's for sure, as the Red Bull gets himself through the line. P3 for the time being with a 143.9. We also have other drivers getting themselves through their flying laps. We have Ixter on the mediums in sector 2, just trying to figure out if there are any other drivers on flying laps. Oh, there's a Red Bull, not a Red Bull, a Toro Rosso going around. That's Ixter. Unfortunately, it just dropped the rear. Maybe his setup is too stiff. Maybe he has a too stiff rear anti-roll bar. So yeah, just dropping that by 1, softening by 1 in the settings would probably help him. Of course, Parc Fermé is already in place, so I can't really change that, so he's going to have to adapt himself to the behavior of the car, find a way around it, and getting himself adapted to be able to take the car home during the race, because of course if he's spinning during qualifying, the car is going to be much heavier in the race, so the likelihood of it losing traction through Puron is even higher. So yeah, he's going to have a bit of work to get used to that one. Schwalbe on his McLaren is getting already in sector number 3 as he's closing in on Blanchemont, and now to turn number 18, waiting for the big braking zone into the bus stop chicane, corners 19 and 20. Let's see how it goes. It's actually mode 0 of ERS, so he is aborting his lap, potentially a mistake somewhere along the way. Jumping to the Williams of Jaime, the Brazilian driver is in P10 at the moment in the championship, only 40 points scored so far. Let's see what he does. He would DNF'd at not Austria, but Hungary. In fact, Austria was his best finish so far, just like Shine finished in P4, and at Austria he also finished P4. It's his best result of the season. He's just missed out on the podium. Hopefully he can get himself that podium this afternoon. For the time being, he gets himself through the line in a 1:45.6 on the mediums. Respectable lap nonetheless. He's going to have to work a bit more if he wants to beat some of the soft tire runners this far into the session. So we have a few drivers on their out laps. We have actually Ken Worthington on the second Williams on a set of hards, but Silver's Ray Lee is currently on the softs and is closer to the start of a lap of his zone. It looked to me like he was losing the car. He did lose the car there, yet to correct it. Ooh, that's a bit airborne there. So good stuff, good stuff. He's going to himself through the out lap. Hopefully that incident didn't damage his tires too much, but yeah, he did start spinning. But he had to counter steer and therefore bail out of the corner. Fortunately, he managed to keep his silver arrow under control, and the 61 can carry on to start his lap. Schwalbe has in the meantime got out of the pits to start an out lap. Archer and JG have done the same. So in the meantime, let's just follow on board with Ray Lee. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, to be honest. I'm going to say Silver's Rayleigh. Yeah, I'm going to call him Rayleigh. If it's wrong, I apologize. But let's see how it goes. He's getting himself up to turn number 1. Last source just after the 100-meter marker board. He goes hard on the brakes, a bit wide there on the curb, the apex of the corner, but the exit is fine. So he's now getting up to the gears. Mode 4 of ERS, drop down to third. Is going to be careful getting himself up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Turns number 3, 4 and 5 now through the right king of turn 6 down the Camel Straight. Full power from that hybrid Mercedes power unit as he goes hard on the brakes once again into Lecombe, turn 7, 8 and the right-hander of 9, which starts getting downhill. He just got through the highest zone of the track. From now on it's going to be downhill through the very long Bruxelles before the left-hander of the no-named corner. You could have taken a bit more curb there, helped rotate the car, so a bit of a mistake. He might lose a tenth or two through there. Now full commitment through P1s. He sends the car to turn number 12. The car really sticking to the road. So nicely done from him as he is getting closer and closer to the end of sector 2. Now through the right-hander and left-hander of Campus. Getting now closer to the turn number 15 of Stavelo as he finishes sector number 2 with a 1:15 lap so far. And now it's just full throttle all the way to the braking zone of the bus stop chicane. Up through the gears, mode number 4 of ERS. I bet he's going on rich, not rich mix, but max fuel mix as well. as he gets himself now on the approach to turn number 19. There's a couple boards that have been smashed during the session, so that could have thrown him off a little bit. Nonetheless, he keeps himself composed, and it is a P3 so far with a 143.9 for the German. Taking a look now at the other drivers, as we have Ken Worthington about to finish his lap on the hards as well. After that, going to take a look at the McLaren of Schwalbe. Let's see what the British driver does. He's actually going to abort this lap. Ooh, pulling off a Grosjean there. Hopefully didn't get too damaged in his front wing, unlike the Haas driver in the British Grand Prix. But yeah, Schwalbe getting himself currently through sector number 2. Schwalbe is on the outside looking in to the top 3 in the championship. He is 37, no, actually 38. My mental maths are great, guys, I'm telling you that right now. But yeah, 38 points away from P3 in the championship, so he does have a bit of work to do if he wants to finish the championship within the top 3. Nonetheless, he has gotten himself a win at Germany. Unfortunately, he couldn't back it up with another good result since he DNF'd at the Hungaroring. Nonetheless, he's going to get himself provisory pole with a 143.2. Very good lap from the McLaren drivers. In the meantime, Shadi on provisory pole previously has retired from the session. Real is going to close his lap as well. He's improving by 3/10. Now he's on his way to a 143.4. Let's see, can he get himself in the top 2? Could he make the front row lockout for the Mercedes boys? Let's see how it goes. The number 22 crosses over the line, and it is a 143, 333 thousandths of a second as well, to get himself right behind his teammate. In the meantime, we have Mads Citroen getting himself through the last few corners. He's improving by a 10th according to the live timing. Let's see, can he beat Silver's Rayleigh? And he's going to get himself through the line. It's not enough. He does improve, not enough to get himself move up the standings. Now jumping to the ass of Luck Taps, is currently getting on the downhill initial part of sector number 2. Going to jump to perhaps someone who's closer to the end of their lap. We have Jaime on the beginning of his lap as well, so I believe Luck Taps is the closest driver to finishing his lap. So let's see what the Turkish driver does. 58 points so far in the championship for him. He did win, he does have a win under his belt at China, but since then he has only finished in the top 5 in one occasion with a 5th place at France. His most common results have been two 9th place finishes and 2 8th place finishes since that win at Shanghai. So unfortunately, 2 DNFs in the last 2 races. Let's see if the Turkish driver can get better luck this time around, starting with potentially a good performance on this qualifying session. He's going to get himself through the lap, and he's going to post a lap time of 144.4, gets himself up to P8. Taking a look at Jaime, who in the meantime has started sector number 3, is improving by 6/10 so far. He didn't have a greatest first lap on the mediums, so of course those softs will allow him to get much faster until the end of the lap. 6/10 gained on his previous best so far. Let's see how much he gained until the end of the lap. DRS wide open at the back of the Williams, is going to cross over the line, and he does improve by half a second. Nonetheless, I don't think he didn't gain any positions, that's for sure. I'm not sure if the lap registered. I'm not sure if he got his lap nullified or not. Nonetheless, jumping to Ken Worthington, who is started with his lap, going to actually follow on board with the Williams driver. He is currently in 7th. In a bit of no man's land, he's exactly 21 points behind 6th place, and is also 19, something along those lines. Is 16 points away from P8. So yes, he does need to have a mistake to get overtaken, or he does need someone ahead of him to have a bad weekend for him to claim some position. So he's in a bit of no man's land at the moment. Let's see how it goes, getting himself now through the 2nd sector. Taking a look at his history, he hasn't won, but he does have a podium with the 2nd place finish at Baku. and since then is only finished in the top 5 once with a 4th place at Hungary. He also finished in 4th at the season opener at Albert Park. Only once he finished outside of the top 10, and he has 2 DNFs to his name, one at Silverstone, one at Monaco, and the race he finished outside of the top 10 was France. So he's usually finishing about 6th, 7th place. Hopefully he can capitalize on that good form he had at Hungary with that 4th place finish. Maybe he can get an improvement in form on the races to come. Of course, we are closing in on the last third of the season, and the races start to matter a little bit more. So tensions start running high as each driver is trying to just get good results, and of course any mistakes, any collisions, any drama that might happen does have that added impact that is denying more and more points when those points are starting to have some scarcity in them. Ken Workington in the meantime gets himself 10th place with a 144.6 on the mediums, so nicely done from the Williams driver, as we have a few cars right out on track trying to make a few last minute improvements on their previous best lap times. We have Archer out there, Ixter is right behind him, his teammate. We have Matt Zitrone in sector 2, we have Silver's Rayleigh also through the first sector, JG as well, Nick is getting himself through the Camel Straight, Real and Schwalbe are doing the same. So I do believe Matt Zitrone is going to be the first driver to start a lap. So it's Matt Zitrone going to try to figure out who is behind them, and it's not Silver's Rayleigh. I'm actually not sure. I'd like to figure out the order. Ooh, there's a swap there between the Toro Rossos. No, it might be actually Silver's, the driver that's the closest to Nick. So I'm guessing it's going to be Nick starting his lap, or sorry, Matt Zitrone starting his lap, as Luck Taps is out of the session. Luck Taps getting a close encounter with the wall somewhere, and that's it for the session. Best case scenario is going to start from P8 on 3 laps old tires, I believe, 3 lap old medium. So we do have Matt Zitrone getting himself the start of his flying lap. Just going to keep close attention on the indications of the outlap so I can see in what order the drivers are starting their attempts to improve. Let's see how it goes. For the time being, there is a big gap between Zitrone and the others. The Silver's Rayleigh is the second one to start a lap of his own, so we're going to jump to him later on. We have Ixter and Archer starting their laps, the Toro Rosso boys, JG also doing the same, and then it's the championship leader Nick Nagler, and then Real with Schwalbe. Oh, Silver's Rayleigh crashed out, probably coming out of Eau Rouge, and yeah, probably pulled off a Magnussen there, and unfortunately, best case scenario, 6th place for him. The checkered flag is shown to some of our drivers. Ken Worthington won't be able to improve. Best case scenario starts from P10. We had a few drivers giving up on their laps, just crashing out. I'm not sure if, at least I haven't been informed if there are any qualifying bans, but at least the racing points are going to be starting from the back of the pack, so not the greatest qualifying session for the Silverstone based team. As Matt Zitrone is going to get himself. Ixter is out of the session as well, so another crash there. Archer might as well outqualify his teammate. Let's see how that one develops, as JG has also retired from the session. I'm not sure if these guys are just retiring or if they are actually crashing at these points. Matt Zitrone, though, is going to get himself DRS wide open at the back of his Red Bull. Does improve by half a second. P5 with a 143.8 for the time being. Archer is in the wall as well. Coming out, coming out of Paul Frère, of the curb Paul Frère, and he's found himself in the wall. That's qualifying over for him. The championship leader, Nick Nagler, is going to get himself closing in on the last corners of this layout. Let's see what he does. He might start to derate. Let's see how it goes. Going under acceleration. DRS wide open. Is going to get himself through the line. He does improve, but not enough. Real is going to get himself a 143.1 provisory pole. Will Schwalbe get himself back on top? And he does. P1 for the McLaren driver. P2 for the other McLaren driver. Front row lockout for the Woking based team. Pretty sure they are happy with that one. I actually don't know if they have ever achieved it in previous qualifying performances, so as far as I'm commentating, it is the first McLaren front row lockout of the season. Pretty sure they are happy with that performance. 2 tenths apart from each other. Schwalbe got himself the only lap below 143, Real 2 tenths away. Then Nick Nagler 4 points away from the lead. Shadi in P4, Matt Zitron in P5, JG finds himself in P6, Silver's Rally in 7th, and the time ran out of me. I actually didn't notice the time was going to run out, so that's how it's going to be. Didn't quite catch the remaining drivers of the top 10. I'm sure you guys did though, as now we're going to have our drivers sorting out their strategies with their race engineers, and while they do, we can also speak about strategy ourselves, as according to my notes, those who start on the softs will have the opportunity to switch onto the mediums between lap 6 and 9, depending of course how good the drivers are at managing those Pirellis. And those who opt for the reverse one stop, the mediums to the softs, can pit between the laps 14 and 17 to take the soft tires on a last lap, not a last lap, but the closing laps sprint, trying to claim some positions. Of course, that means they are going to be undercut by those who start on the softs, and they are going to lose time while they are getting undercut. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic develops throughout the race. Guys, look clear at these points. So I didn't get any of the drivers telling me anything about any rain presence, either at the start or at the end of the Grand Prix, so I'm going to assume it's going to be clear skies, or at least dry track, until the end of the race. 22 lap race, as you guys can see, 22 times our drivers are going to navigate the 7,004 meters of the Belgium layout. And as you guys can see, the most popular strategy is the start on the softs. There's only 2 drivers who qualified in the top 10 using medium tires. Luck Taps is actually, he crashed out, so he's actually going to be starting his race on mediums that have 3 laps of qualifying in them. So Luck Taps might start to struggle earlier than his other rivals on the mediums. We also have Ken Worthington with medium tires, Archer also on the mediums, Jaime also on the mediums, but those of course brand new mediums as they are outside of the top 10. Bojnoit, he actually dropped out, he disconnected, but now he's back, and one of the Racing Points dropped out of the session as well. So we have a man drop, and I actually don't remember, I think it's 2 steps, the other Racing Points driver, and he is out of the race. So unfortunately, instead of 15, we are going to only have 14 drivers racing this afternoon. Now, going to get our drivers filling up their respective grid slots as determined by their performances during the qualifying session. Front row lockout for the McLarens, as you guys can see, the championship leader right behind them in P3. Shadi, second place in the championship, 34 points behind the leader in P4, so not too far behind as well. Matzi Throne in P5, let's see who gets the best of starts. Mandrop is going to be the last one to get slotted on his marks. He's parked his car already. I do believe Bojnovic is going to get himself the last one effectively, as he's still ghosted. Not sure if he's back on control of his car. Let's see how that one goes. This is it. We have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Belgium Grand Prix. Good start there from Real and Schwalbe as they're going side by side into turn number 1. Nick maintains P3, is going on the inside of one of the McLarens. Let's see, ooh, there's JG getting a bit sideways there. Nick maintains P3, Shady follows in P4, Mazzitron in P5. Silver Israeli is going to fend off pressure from JG as they get uphill. There's a sideways Mercedes, and that's Silver Israeli in a wall. That could have been the end of the race for him as he collects luck taps. And Ken Worthington, and disaster has come upon those 3 drivers. Silver Israeli, just a full tank of fuel, the car too heavy, the suspension couldn't handle it, the tires didn't handle all the pressure as well. Around he went. Ken Worthington and Luck Taps had nowhere to go, both have damage. Luck Taps is out of the session. Nick does have front wing damage on the right side, so his teammate might start pressurizing him. And in fact, JG says thank you very much for the confusion between the Red Bulls and slots himself right in between them. He's gone from P7 to P5 for the time being. So good start of the race for the Haas driver. In the meantime, the top 3 have started to get away from each other. Nick had, of course, that moment that got him front wing damage, so now he's going to start losing time, and this is great for Shady as he's of course going to need moments exactly like this. Bad luck for the championship leader, so Shady can start getting himself closer to his rivals, to his rival in terms of the championship. It's going to be damage limitation from now on from Nick. Of course, he's going to be losing time through the entirety of this stint, and he's also going to be losing time by replacing his wing on the pit stop. In the meantime, Schwalbe and Real are going to start pulling away even from the Mercedes. Shade is starting to struggle a little bit to keep up with the Woking-based team's cars in front, so those two are certainly going to start collaborating, taking slipstream off of each other, trying to pull away from their rivals. Bojnovic is still ghosted, so I guess he's or the Spaniard is disconnected and hasn't been able to get back in. Ixter gets himself up to a P9 due to that. Mandrop started the race in last place and is up to P8, so couldn't be a better start of the race for him. And as you can see on his helmet, that's actually the helmet I use for my career mode, and I guess he's using the same number of helmet, so he's just not using the same colors as I do. That's why the helmet has that green tint, but yeah, the helmet is the one I use. I guess he's using helmet number 13, I believe that is. So yeah, he's actually running with my career mode helmet. Unfortunately for him, he's not running on the Williams, as we have Silver Israeli overtaking Ken Worthington, as I guess the latter is coming to the pits. Ixter is getting himself closer to a Mandrop, and Archer were battling it out for P7 just a while ago. Going on board with the Toro Rosso drivers, you can see from the gaps, Mandrop actually dropped out a little bit, coming out of Stavalo, turn number 15 at the end of the second sector, but of course the slipstream is going to allow him to close right back up. Nick and JG are going for it, are going for a scrap for P4, and he has pulls the trigger on him into the chicane and gets the job done. Taking a look at the gaps, Mandrop is also going to have a go at the Toro Rosso. He's going to claim the inside of La Source. Let's see now on the exit who gets the better traction. Archer keeps his nose ahead. He's going to get better traction and actually maintains himself up ahead. Let's see how it goes, as the DRS is going to be enabled for these drivers, I believe, as we have a swap for positions to the lead. Shadi is too far away. JG is going to come under pressure from the championship leader, and Nick retakes P4. In the meantime, Mandrop and Ixter are going to be battling it out. It might be 3 wide between the Toro Rossos and the Racing Point, and for the time being it is the Racing Point taking advantage of that one. Actually, that's Ixter quite far behind. Archer got himself down to P8. Mandrop makes the move stick with DRS and got himself up to P7. We also had JG have another go at Nick, so Nick, of course, he can overtake JG through the straight, but then his lack of front downforce forced him to concede the place anyway. So up to P4 he's the Haas, and now it's going to be Mad Z-Tron. I'm not sure if team orders are going to be in place, because of course Mad Z-Tron overtaking Nick and finishing ahead of him is going to damage his gap, or going to allow Shadi to cut the gap even more to the championship leader. So it's a bit of a tricky situation for the Milton Keynes based guys to figure out, at least so early in this race. Real is still maintaining himself right behind his teammate. Let's see if there's any changes. Ixter and Archer is actually going to go at each other. If there is the possibility of being team orders at Milton Keynes, at their sister team, there's definitely not the case. As Ixter is going to throw himself down the inside of Archer. Now it's going to be the soft tires versus the medium tires. This battle is actually damaging their chances of getting up to Mandrop. Let's see how it goes, as they're going to get a drag race up into Eau Rouge. Ooh, Archer getting a little bit unstable there. He managed to keep the car under control, but that curb can be slippery, especially if he drops a wheel past it into the grass. Nonetheless, he does maintain himself close enough to get in striking range, pulls the DRS and gets the move done. Back up into P8 is Archer. Of course, this battle, as spicy as it is, allowed Mandrop to get himself 2 seconds away, or sorry, 1.5 seconds away from Archer, so they've really shot themselves in the foot, at least at this point. As we have Nick, you can see, sorry, Mad Z-Tron has actually lost time to Nick, so Nick Nagler, despite the wing damage, is actually pulling away from his teammate. Oh no, okay. For a moment it looked to me like his teammate also had front wing damage, but no. Everything's right with Mad Z-Tron's front wing. So yeah, that shows just how quick Nick is, and the disparity in performance between the Red Bull drivers. As Mad Z-Tron, of course, now he's going to use mode number 4 of VRS, going to get the slipstream. Is he going to pull the trigger on his teammate? Let's see how it goes. He's very close to the rear diffuser. Looks like he's going to be a bit more patient and just wait, as Mandrop is out of the race and he's getting down the order. Not sure what happened there to Mandrop, but he's in the wall there, and race over for the Racing Point driver. Guess he touched the inside curb of Blanchimont, and that sent him into a spin. Unfortunate stuff for Mandrop, and no safety car deployed, no form of safety car deployed, despite getting yellow flag situations in sectors 1 and 3, but no form of safety car to be deployed just yet. Mad Z-Tron is going to get very close to his teammate. Not sure if he's going to be close enough to overtake. That's not the case between Ixter and Archer. This time around 4P7, and Ixter gets the RS wide open, and easy peasy lemon squeezy moves up to P7. Though he managed to bottle it himself, it was an easy maneuver, but he had a mistake coming into Lecombe, and now Archer is going to take a cheeky look at the inside. Doesn't quite have the speed to make the move stick, so he's going to have to stay put in P8 for the time being. That battle though allowed Jaime to close in on the duo of the Toro Rosso, so it might become a three-way battle once again for that P7. Mad Z-Tron continues the chase onto Nick Nagler, as getting himself very close to the rear diffuser of his teammate's car. Let's see how it goes. Going to have another fast sequence, as Z-Tron does have a lot of ERS to use at this point and is really draining his teammate of resources. Nick is already below half the energy he needs. Mad Z-Tron is actually, he was attempting a move around the outside. He actually backed off from it as Jaime overtakes Archer, as there was something very wrong with Archer there, and maybe Jaime pulled the trigger on him, and that caused Ixter to be able to pull away as those two were battling. So Archer is actually losing a lot of time to his teammate. Jaime getting a massively better exit than the Toro Rosso, and Jaime is going to actually claim a few car lengths of advantage as they get into turn number 1. So Archer might actually be losing out on, of course he's going to have the RS, but he might be losing out on the distance he needs to actually make the move stick, even with the aid of the RS, as the Williams is in the wall, and that's race over for him. Race over for the Williams driver, as he planted himself, you can see, planted himself in the wall. Quite a lot of crashes as we have a virtual safety car deployed, and yeah, quite a high amount of victims that wall at the exit of Rouge has claimed. Of course, these drivers, it depends on how much time they put in the game for practicing, because if they picked up what's the name? If they picked up time trial setups, this might be what explains the amount of people losing the rear end. Because of course the time trial setups are quite aggressive, because you don't have tire wear, you have the minimum amount of fuel, you just blast it so you can use everything to the maximum, right? So in the race that's not the case, and as the tires start getting worn out, the suspension settings and especially the camber settings, if they have any, quite wide there. Matt Zitron almost colliding with the outside wall at the exit of turn 16. But we have green flag racing once again, so let's see when Zitron is going to actually pull the trigger on his teammate. For the time being, Real is still trying to keep up with his teammate. His teammate is clearly faster. Real was beat by 2/10 during the race, or sorry, during qualifying. But yeah, Real is doing his best. He's keeping up. He's maybe even not attacking his teammate just because Schwalbe is in a better position. Actually, no. Schwalbe is in P4. Real is in P3 in the championship. They are 38 points apart from each other. So Real getting the win would actually help him close in on Shadi, who's in P2. And of course also closing in on Nick, who just got overtaken by his teammate. Finally, Magic Throne gets move done and up into P5 he goes. So this is really a bad luck race for Nick, who is going to have to just do his best to reduce or to control the damage. Just a damage limitation race from turn 1. He's lost a big amounts of time. Of course, that wing damage is going to compromise him all the way after the camel straights. The camel straight to the end of the lap is basically very aero dependent. So yeah, he's losing time throughout 80% of the lap. So yeah, on top of that, he's going to lose time by replacing the front wing once he pit stops. So it could be a very damaging race for his chances to take the championship win at the end of the season. But of course, let's see how it goes. Still, everything can happen. Of course, we've seen quite a few drivers spin at Puron and Eau Rouge, so that can still happen for some of our drivers here today. Real gets closer to Schwalbe, not close enough to pull the trigger, as JG gets himself to the pits, as he's the first of our soft tire runners who didn't get damage to get himself into the pits. Nick is going to follow him, is going to replace his front wing for sure. JG going to get rid, also a front wing replacement for JG there, as the pole is going to get himself brand new mediums. Nick is going to do the same. You can see similar pit stop times for these two drivers, and they are going to rejoin the track in P8 and P9 respectively. But yeah, I don't talking about the setups, like few drivers are spinning at Rouge and Pion, because yeah, they are running time trial setups, I'm pretty sure, because if they were using setups developed for race pace, the car would be much stable through those areas. As Silvers rarely gets himself a 3-second time penalty, unfortunately for him, so his day goes from bad to worse, as he's going to have to make another pit stop to take softs to the end of the race. Maybe a full-on safety car can save his race, but for that we need to have some more drivers making mistakes of their own. Of course, people have pitted, so the pack has spread out a little bit. Of course, we have Real still keeping Schwalbe honest, but he hasn't been quick enough to keep his teammates honest. Schwalbe is just faster per lap, and Real is going for the undercut on his teammate. Let's see. Of course, it's a very long lap, so it is quite effective, the undercut. Shadi is going to follow him into the pits, so the Dutch of the McLaren and the German driver of the Mercedes are getting into the pits. Brand new softs, or sorry, brand new medium tires for both of them. And we also have Madsitron getting to the pits. Old softs out, new mediums in. Ooh, he actually gets held up a little bit by Ixter, I believe that is, as Ixter is going to actually be able to pit in the same lap. Oh, sorry, actually no, he's not pitting in the same lap as his teammate. I'm sorry, Archer started on the mediums, so Ixter maintains himself ahead of Nick. Look at that, Nick had to replace his front wing, so Nick is actually going to come out not only behind Ixter but also behind Madsitron, even though it's going to be a drag race, as Madsitron is going to have to stay back and is going to have the run on his teammate. Oh, and JG is out of the race! JG has retired from the Grand Prix, and Ken Worthington has moved to P10, Silvers Rayleigh moved up to P9, and their races have been saved, ladies and gentlemen, due to the mistakes of their rivals. Those two have gotten still a chance of some points. Very big puff of smoke there from the front tire of Nick Nagler as he gets himself his tires locked up, under braking to Bruxelles as they get now through turn 12 Pujon, and of course mounting a bit off the curb there Madsitron. That could bite him in the rear if his tires were a bit more worn out, but yeah, Madsitron is actually not getting past Nick. Of course, Nick has proven himself to be quicker, and now he has his front wing replaced, so he's going to have some serious paces. Archer gets overtaken by Shadi. Of course, Shadi has brand new tires, so not much Archer can do to capitalize on that one. As we have Schwalbe in the pits, coming out of the pits, going to be close between Real and the German. Let's see how it goes. Who is the first McLaren to come out? And it is Real, just by the just scraping by with the lead. Schwalbe though is probably going to get a run on his teammate. Let's see how that one goes. Will Schwalbe now behave and not attack his teammate like Real did the entirety of the first stint? Let's see. Mode 0 VRS for the time being, and he's just going to take the slipstream. He's going to contain himself at the moment. Real really pushed. You can see he has less ERS available than his teammate, so yeah, he's put himself in a vulnerable situation, because of course from now on Schwalbe is going to be able to just run the DRS without any ERS on the DRS zones, obviously. And because of having the flap opened on the rear of his car along with the slipstream, is going to be able to maintain a lesser deployment mode on his energy charge. Real, it doesn't have the slipstream or the drag reduction system to take advantage of, so it's going to lean on the ERS and it's going to be depleting that battery rather quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see how much does Schwalbe put the squeeze on the resources of his own teammates until the end of the race. Madsitron is already just trying very hard to not lose out on the rights to the RS, even though looks like it won't last too long. Nick is getting himself close to Ixter as well, so Nick has kept himself within a second of the Toro Rosso in front of him. So Nick, his race starts now. He really needs to push, he really needs to do the best job he can, trying to lose the least amount of points possible to both Shadi and Real. So Archer is a bit... actually, I don't know if Archer is going to be tougher to get. Of course, Archer is going to have to do softs at the end, but from now until Archer pits, he's going to be losing time per lap, because of course he has much more worn out tires, as Real finally gets overtaken by his teammate. DRS is available for the German and he just gets himself past Real. Yeah, he just doesn't have the pace to match his teammate this afternoon, which of course Real wants to get himself bringing the fight to that P2. He wants to dethrone Shadi. If he took the win, he probably could cut in half the gap. I believe the gap is at the moment, yes, it's exactly 16 points from P3 to P2 in the championship. So Real taking the win with Shadi in P3, it would be very, very important sum of points for the Dutch driver, but unfortunately for him, he can't really get past his teammate in this race. Shadi is 6 seconds behind, so at least he's quicker than the German driver of the Mercedes in this race, so it might be a good indication for the next races to come. Archer is still carrying on his older set of medium tires. He's going to pit at about, according to my data, he's going to get rid of those at about lap 15, 16 or 17 maybe. Let's see how that one develops. Nick has already gotten past Ixter. Sorry, actually missed that one, but Ixter has dropped down to P6, but he's going to come back. Mode number 4 of VRS, going to pull alongside Nick Hagler. Let's see how it goes. Under braking. Ooh, he goes deep, but he gets now the inside of turn number 20, and he does get the move done, even though DRS, oh, actually DRS is available for the Toro Rosso, not for the Red Bull, which is a bit surprising, but that obviously won't be the case for the next run out of Eau Rouge. Also, a bit of a mistake there from Ixter as he gets deep, and Matt Citroen as Prime sit in the house. I might even send him a box of popcorn, because he just needs to chill out and eat those as he witnesses the battle for P5 between Nick Nagler and Ixter. Of course, DRS wide open at the back of both Red Bulls, and Citroen is going to try to take the slipstream of Ixter. He's too far away though, and Ixter only drops down one place. P6 to Ixter, P5 to our championship leader. Let's see how that one develops. The Ixter is struggling a bit more on those hards. He might, if there's anyone that might spin out until the end of the race, that could be Ixter, because I'm thinking he's struggling. He goes deep into the corners. He got himself a bit loose coming out of Lecombe, or sorry, turn 9. So yeah, it's not the greatest shape for Ixter on those mediums. He's not as quick, or at least not as comfortable on this set of Pirellis as he was in the previous red marked set of softs. So yeah, you can see going wide once again. It's just losing time and over fist to Nick Nagler. He doesn't have not DRS, but I'm pretty sure if he has any of the slipstream effect, it's pretty weak, even though he's actually pulling away from Matt Citroen, as Matt Citroen is conserving his DRS. Ixter had to use a much higher. Ooh, he gets himself, drops a wheel on the grass, and he's going to carry on as the tires are locked up on him. Of course, the grass isn't exactly the most grippy of surfaces, so he drops a wheel on the grass. A driving mistake there from the British driver, and he's going to drop down to P7. Actually lost quite a bit of time to the Red Bull, so unfortunately for him, he won't even have DRS available to him, and Nick has free reign to just try and pull away from Matt Citroen. Of course, Citroen has only gotten back to DRS range because of that battle between the British driver and the championship leader, but now Nick does have clean air in front of him, and he can just put down the laps he wants. Taking a look at our battle for the extra points of the fastest lap, it is still Schwalbe with the lead on that department, 1:45.9. Of course, I do believe some drivers are going, especially like Archer and Silver's Rayleigh, are going to pit for soft tires at the end of the race. They're probably going to battle each other to see who gets the fastest lap, unless Schwalbe is just going to save himself and going to save some pace on the tires and then just blast an amazing lap closer to the end of the Grand Prix. Let's see how that one goes. Of course, that's always a possibility, even though I don't think Schwalbe has that kind of dominating pace. He is fast, he's been the quickest man on track today, but Real is at least still able to keep him honest, as he's getting to take a look around the outside of Schwalbe there. Got awful close to the rear diffuser of his teammates. Nonetheless, he's not going to be able to do much with it. Even though Real has been pressurizing Schwalbe, they do have the same amount of battery charge. You can see now Real is going to deploy mode number 4, and Schwalbe is just on mode 0, and you can see by the end of the straight there's about a 7% difference on the battery charge of both of them. Real, I would say, could just sit behind his teammate and just force him to use a higher mode of ERS, because now he's just put himself back in a vulnerable position. Schwalbe now has the choice of simply not overtaking. Schwalbe also has one lap fresher tires, so that might make the difference. He just has to make the choice of not overtaking. Real, to keep himself ahead, just needs to keep on saving or keep using ERS, so he can't save as much throughout the lap. So yeah, Schwalbe might be giving himself a great chance to take the win today. Of course, Schwalbe has won at France, and actually since his DNF at Monaco, which yeah, it was his debut, so he DNF'd at Monaco on his debut, but since then he has always finished on the podium apart for the Hungary Grand Prix, where he actually DNF'd. So every single, he has 2 second places, 2 first places, and 1 third place at the British Grand Prix. So that's his worst finishing position, and looks like he's at least getting first or second today. It's going to be the third of one of those for the German driver of the McLaren team. So let's see how that one goes to the end. But yeah, Schwalbe has been, since his debut, of course, he spent half the season, or at least, well, not half the season, but up to Spain, not competing, and he did not finish in his first race, so 7 races without scoring any points, and then in his first point scoring finish, it was a second place, and has been on the podium ever since, and he's gotten himself up to P4 in the standings. So that shows how good, how competitive is this man's pace. Of course, Real hasn't been shown to be on the same kind of level. Has shown himself a bit inconsistent, and when he does get the pace, he doesn't get the same amount of results as Schwalbe. Real does have 2 4th-place finishes. He still always finishes in top 5, but he does have a few non-podium performances, which is not the case to his teammate. Even though Schwalbe is maintaining himself on the second place at the moment, so Real is keeping himself in the lead, though I'm not exactly sure as to what extent. It's just Schwalbe letting his teammate keep himself ahead. As you can see, 62% on the following McLaren ZRS and 40% on Real. So yeah, Real really shot himself in the foot, so he just gave the reins of the race to Schwalbe. Let's see how that goes. Of course, 40% is still enough to defend, but if Schwalbe starts putting the pressure, eventually Real not only has the more worn out tires, of course it depends on the driving style. You can pit later, but still have your tires come to have worse shape sooner. Just by the way you use them lap after lap. But of course, standard pace from the two of them, Schwalbe does have a bigger chance of taking the win here today. Mazzitron has been losing out to Nick. He's already not having the rights to the RS, and Ixter is really going downhill. Almost 3 seconds already is the gap between Ixter and Mazzitron. Ken Workington gets another penalty for extending the track limits. Of course, we only have 9 drivers racing at this point, as Bojnovic has disconnected early on the race. He didn't even start the race. He disconnected on the formation lap, I believe, actually, and he hasn't come back. So I don't know what happened to him. It is unfortunate, but Bojnovic is out of the race. He's going to be awarded DNF for, well, he's not going to be racing, not even 50% of the race, let alone 90% of them of the laps here today. So yeah, it is unfortunate, but the Alfa Romeo team will not score any points today. Now we do have Archer still yet to pit. He is caught up. Yes, he has been caught up by Nick and by Zitron, and even Ixter is quite close to him. So Archer, he could start thinking about pitting at the end of this lap. Let's see, will he pit? He's getting himself quite deep on the corner, and yeah, he is going to pit. So right on cue, Archer is coming to the pits. Nick promotes himself to P4, and Archer, maybe can come back at his teammates, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think he's lost too much time by extending, not extending, but by going on the longer first stint, and he's got undercut by about 8 laps. So yeah, it's 8 laps where he has been losing pace. And now of course he's going to have fresh softs compared to the worn out mediums of his rivals, but I don't know as to what extent he's going to be able to capitalize on that. Of course, after 3 laps those softs won't have the same efficiency because the lap is so long that the soft tires really lose pace quick. So as he got himself unstable coming out of the pits there into a push, fortunately no crashes for the Toro Rosso team. But yeah, as you can see, comes out of the pits about 3.5 seconds away from the Mercedes of Silver's Rally. So he's going to be able to keep the pressure on the Mercedes, especially as the Mercedes is on 15 lap old softs. So really looks like he's going to pit a bit later and take soft tires home. Let's see if he's going to actually try to get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Archer is certainly going to try to do so, I believe. Let's see how that develops, as Schwalbe is continuing himself, piling up the pressure on Real. You can see he has his battery fully charged and Real hasn't even reached 50%. So yeah, with that overtake, Real really shot himself in the foot. And yeah, he's going to be feeling the pressure from now on, especially as Schwalbe is actually awfully close. He's going to actually pull the trigger. Looks like so. He might have the race-winning move as Schwalbe is going to have the RS, going to pull off alongside his teammate. And even before the braking zone, he was already ahead. Real just has to tuck behind and concede the lead. Now, Real does have an opportunity to save a bit of ERS, of course, through zones like Blanchimont. Real, if he goes to 0 ERS, Schwalbe just puts on 4 because he has the energy to spare and just pulls away. So Real needs to only start saving ERS on those DRS zones, and even then, if he goes to mode 0 with DRS, will Schwalbe be able to keep the distance with mode 4 without DRS? That's the question I would like to see answered. Let's follow him. You can see mode 0 for Real through the middle sector, and Schwalbe is on mode 5. Schwalbe knows what's up, Schwalbe knows what is needed to take the win, and as you can see, he's already pulling away as much as he can from his rival. He's forcing Real to not save any energy as he comes up through the last sector of this track, and yes, he's going to run out of the range to get allowed to DRS. As you can see, Schwalbe is back to 50% of the battery charge, but he has gotten himself 1 second away from Real, who actually still got himself DRS just by an inch, but yeah, it's going to be very challenging for Real to claim anything from this race as Schwalbe gets back up to mode 4. Real is on mode 0. I'm not sure, is he going? Yes, he's going to have DRS once again, and he's not going to close in too much though, because he doesn't have the slipstream. So that mode 0, the DRS alone doesn't help him. He needs DRS and slipstream, and he's already 1 second away, so he needs to start pushing. Schwalbe is now at this point with less ERS available, so Schwalbe with that one might have shot himself in the foot. Real could just go and do what Schwalbe did, just put it up to mode 5 of ERS and do the second sector just pushing, and he could very well catch up as Ken Worthington gets another penalty as Silver's Rally finally gets himself into the pits for a brand new set of the soft tires. And taking a look at the fastest lap, it still goes by the name of Schwalbe with a 1:45.9. Archer's best has been a 1:47.6. Let's see how that one develops. But for the time being, Real is not really in a position to make a move for the win. Schwalbe is using more of his battery. Real needs to push, and he needs to push in the second sector. I know Schwalbe has outright been faster this afternoon, but Real can still take the win if he just pushes through one of the middle sectors. Let's see how that goes. He did gain about 2/10 into the bus stop chicane, so maybe a mistake from Schwalbe there. He's already out of the DRS range, so let's see how it goes as they are going to come out of turn number 1. Real gained quite a bit there, so maybe a mistake on the brakes from Schwalbe. Real is within the arrest range, and this might have been the point where the luck turns around for these drivers, as he's going to get mode 0. He needs, for this straight, he needs still to get himself a bit more. He does have the ERS to spare, and of course, at least he still got closed in, because of course the slipstream is starting to be playing its cards, but yeah, he could have gotten himself a bit closer. Let's see, 2 laps to go until the end of this Grand Prix. Let's see, Real is playing his cards right. Schwalbe had everything he needed to take the win, and he threw it all away. He got cocky as Silver's Rayleigh finally gets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Just by 1/10, look at that, exactly one, well, not exactly 1/10, but 1/10 and 9 thousandths separating the previous fastest lap to the brand new fastest lap. But yeah, just to show how quick Schwalbe has been this race. But yeah, Schwalbe was in control of this race when he was sitting behind Real, and he's given all that agency to the Dutch driver, to his teammate. We are about to start lap number 21. Real needs to get just a little bit closer, I would say. He does have the time to spare. He could be just right on his gearbox coming through Blanchimont, just to make sure Schwalbe can't just put on mode 4, because at this point, if this is the gap with which they start the last lap, Schwalbe might still put up mode 4 of ERS, blast it on Rich Mix, and allow Real to not overtake him. So Real needs to get at least 3/10 away from Schwalbe into the DRS zones. He needs to get maybe even 2/10 is what he needs, but let's see. He's going to get himself modes 4 of ERS. He's going to overtake him. He's going to overtake him. Real is going to pull himself in front of Schwalbe, and there you have it. The overtaking move is done, and now it's going to be interesting. Real could have waited for the last lap. He did not do so. He's going to do the same trick that Schwalbe did on him. Real is on mode 3 of ERS. Schwalbe is on 0. So let's see, the tires might be a bit more worn out on Real's side than Schwalbe's, or maybe the reverse. Of course, we don't know the tire wear of these drivers, but at this point, Real might have gotten himself and done the same mistake as Schwalbe. Let's see how that one goes. Of course, not sure if there are any team orders between these two, but Schwalbe has lost out 7/10. He's getting quite stubborn. He's not using his ERS. He needs to do so to keep up with Real. Real still is now has less ERS, but still has enough to keep himself ahead, especially with the gap. He doesn't need to have a big of an advantage when you are 7/10 behind. So he really needs to start bolting it. Real mode number 4, Schwalbe mode number 4. You can see the gap is not decreasing. Schwalbe, well, it's decreasing just a little bit, but it's still 6/10 as we start the last lap. I do not think it is enough unless one of these drivers makes any mistakes into the harsher braking zones of the bus stop chicane, which wasn't the case. And now into turn 1. Let's see how that one goes. Of course, Schwalbe is going to have DRS, but he's 6/10 away. Let's see, coming out of La Source, they get smoothly off the throttle, both of them, but you can see it's still 6/10 away. It's going to have to be all or nothing now for the German. I do believe he's too far away. As I was saying, you need to be at least 3/10 away to be able to pull the trigger. 4/10 away as the DRS is wide open at the back of the McLaren. It's still mode number 4 for both of these drivers. Real is going to force himself on the inside. Schwalbe gets deeper on the brakes, and he does pull off the maneuver. What a maneuver around the outside as Schwalbe takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Now it's going to be a battle between these two. It's going to be an all-out battle as Schwalbe is going to have 40%. Yeah, they basically have the same amount of ERS, and Real does need to keep up with Schwalbe. He's losing out on the traction. He's not using the ERS coming out of this corner. Allowed Schwalbe to get... Ooh, Schwalbe does a mistake. He goes wide at Pion, and he might have just given away the win. Schwalbe making a mistake on the last lap, and this could be it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how it goes. Of course, you still have the very fast section of turn 16 all the way to the braking zone of the bus stop chicane. Let's see how it goes. 9/10, no DRS available. It's going to be all about the slipstream and the amount of ERS they get in the exit they get out of this corner, turn number 16. Looks like Schwalbe is just too far away. 1 second margin has been broken, And there you have it. Real is going to get himself. It was hard. Schwalbe was faster, but Schwalbe did get overconfident, made a crucial mistake when he overtook the Dutchman. And there you have it. Real is going to cross over the line to take home the win of the Belgium Grand Prix. 5th win of the season, his 2nd win in a row, 3rd podium finish in a row as well. Very well done from the Dutch driver, and he really needed that one to get closer to Shadi, who finishes P3 today, and to even get closer to Nick, who was in just a damage control race this entire time. He's still going to claim P4, so he's not going to lose as many points to Shadi and Real as I was predicting, but Matt Zitron couldn't quite keep up with him. Ixter still going to get P6 as Archer, as I was predicting, despite getting the faster tires to the end. He was just too far behind. He lost too much time throughout his first stint as he got massively undercut, and at the end he just didn't have enough to get anything done. So Silver's rally after the crash on the opening lap gets P8. Ken Worthington was also collected on that initial crash. He's going to get himself P9. Silver's rally is the owner of our fastest lap of the day, and of course Bojnovic disconnected from the session, so he's going to be awarded the DNF. So there you have it, the last driver to cross over the line. Ken Worthington, unfortunate victim of Silver's rally spin at Eau Rouge through the first lap, and yeah, it was all down. It was over. It was all about the mistakes that his rivals could make, and they did do loads of them, allowed both drivers to get themselves up into the points paying position. Silver's rally is actually going to get himself the extra point for the fastest lap. But there you have it, 1-2 at the front for the McLaren at the end of qualifying, 1-2 for the McLaren at the end of the race. So now we're going to get ourselves on the Discord, and I'm going okay, so we have just waiting for our drivers, our podium finishers, and it was Real, Schwalbe and Shadi. I'm going to, okay, so we have all three of them, and give me a moment. And okay, well, let's start ourselves with Shadi, with well, he's our 3rd place finisher, so let's start with him. What's up? How are you doing?
Yeah, what's up, man? How is life, bro?
Well, it's going fine. It's going fine, at least so far. But yeah, talking about your performance, you got yourself P4 at the qualifying. Was that the best lap you could have achieved? Are you happy with that one?
No. Totally unhappy with the qualifying, bro. Wanted to start my second stint, crashed out after turn 1. Yeah, was not good. I looked for an P1 or P2, but yeah, doesn't matter now. And the race was, I don't know, man. Race pace was not that good. Yeah.
True.
You still were able to capitalize on the mistakes from some of your rivals. For example, the championship leader, Nick, he got himself wing damage. So I'm pretty sure it was still a good result. At least you finished ahead of the championship leader, so you can still cut a few points on the lead. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's right, bro. At least I finished in front of Nick. That's right. I'm happy with that, but I'm not happy with the race at all. So let's see what Italy brings. And yeah, GG's to the McLaren's. Nothing more to say here, bro.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your words. Moving on to 2nd place, Schwalbe.
Hello.
You just demolished the only lap below the 143s, I believe, or below the 144s in qualifying. And yeah, how confident were you feeling about your race pace after qualifying?
Not so much, because I loaded the wrong setup. I drove with
Oh.
the silver zone setup, so it was not that good.
That's,
But I
that's
guess
unfortunate.
with my teammate we had a good teamwork, so it was pretty good in the race.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in terms of the race itself, it was a bit easier that you were allowed to pull away, especially as Shadi wasn't able to keep up the pace, and then Nick, who could potentially pressurize you guys into the race, also had his misfortunes. So it was easier on that department. But I have a question to make you, Schwalbe.
Yeah.
Why did you overtake Real in like lap 18? You could have just kept on piling up the pressure. You wouldn't be able to defend.
Nah, we was a little bit playing because of the fastest lap, so we overtook ourselves. And to say
Okay.
that the back guy can save ERS and the front guy can push a little bit. So it was all teamwork.
Okay. Okay, I understand then. Okay, I thought you were just going for the win and trying to pressurize Real and only overtake on the last lap. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but it was
Yeah,
still fun because it was a fun battle throughout the last few laps. So, Real, how much were you
Yes.
sweating on those last laps?
It was pretty intense. Swelp got a time penalty earlier on, so I knew that if he wasn't gonna pull away, that I was just gonna take the win. But yeah, I don't know. We were taking it easy on earlier in the race, trying to pull a gap to Shaddy, making sure he was out of our DRS and just drive our race and go.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what you guys did. It's 1-2 from lights to flags. I'm pretty sure in terms of the championship, of the Constructors Championship, is also very helpful as well, as you guys are trying to take the fight to the leading Mercedes team. So,
oh yeah, we are coming.
yeah, it's going to be quite close. It was a 25-point gap at the beginning of the race. I'm not sure, but I do believe with that one, you now become the leaders of the championship. But of course, let's see how that one goes once our coordinators do all the maths. So yeah, guys, thank you for your words, and I'm gonna see you guys maybe next race.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so this is it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like button. If you did not, the dislike button is, as always, right beside it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Hit the icon for any notifications of whenever you are about to start a live stream or to post a video. Hope to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.